Welcome to Pillow Talk Dreams, where every night becomes a story and every story leads you to peace. If you love calm voices, gentle journeys, and stories that help you drift into dreams, then don't forget to subscribe and let your nights be a little softer. Now close your eyes and let the story begin. The rain had been falling all day, tracing silver veins across Evelyn's window. It was the kind of rain that didn't ask for attention, soft, steady, the kind that spoke only to those who listened. She sat on the edge of her bed, tea cooling beside her, the room painted in twilight gray. It had been 2 years since she last dreamed of him, and yet, tonight, something in the air felt familiar, like a forgotten song drifting back on the wind. Evelyn was 34, a quiet woman with eyes that seemed to see beyond walls. She lived alone now, in a small apartment filled with books, soft lamps, and the gentle hum of silence. Her days were calm, almost too calm. She had learned how to survive loss by folding her grief into small corners of her day, like tucking away fragile glass. But sleep had never been her friend. Every night she lay still, hoping dreams would come softly. Sometimes they did, in brief flashes of colors, laughter, and places she no longer remembered. Other nights, she wandered endless corridors of half-formed memories. That night, she lit a single candle before turning off the lights. Outside, thunder whispered like an old friend clearing his throat. She lay back, eyes fluttering closed, and for the first time in years, she didn't fight the darkness. At first, it was only sound, a hush like the ocean drawing breath. Then a scent, wildflowers, and something older, something she couldn't name. When she opened her eyes, the world had changed. The ceiling was gone. Above her stretched a sky painted in deep violet, stars hanging low enough to touch. The air shimmered, not warm, not cold, but alive. She sat up, her bare feet brushing soft grass that glowed faintly beneath her touch. Evelyn blinked. "This isn't real," she whispered to herself, but her voice didn't echo. Instead, it scattered into tiny ripples of light, floating upward and vanishing into the sky. She looked around, fields of silver mist, trees like tall glass columns, and a river that glowed with its own gentle light. Every sound seemed to breathe, the grass sighing, the stars humming. It wasn't silence, but serenity. She began to walk. Every step she took left behind faint footprints of light, fading slowly as though the ground itself remembered her presence. And then she heard it, a voice, soft and distant, carried on the wind. "Evelyn," she froze. No one had said her name that way in years, like a melody, tender and unhurried. Her breath caught in her throat. "Who's there?" she called, though part of her already knew. The voice came again, clearer now, echoing between her ribs. "Welcome back." She turned, and there it was. A small wooden bridge arched over the glowing river, and on the other side a faint figure stood, half hidden in the light. The air trembled with familiarity, the kind that makes your heart ache before your mind understands why. Her feet moved before her thoughts could stop them. Each step across the bridge was slower than the last, her pulse echoing with the rhythm of old memories. When she reached the middle, the figure began to fade, dissolving into the mist. "Wait," she called. "Please don't go." But only the wind answered, carrying fragments of laughter she hadn't heard in years. The bridge trembled beneath her feet. The stars flickered, and just before everything dissolved, she heard a whisper, close enough to feel against her skin. "Dreams remember what hearts cannot." Then silence. Evelyn woke with tears on her cheeks and the candle still burning beside her bed. Her hands trembled as she touched her pillow, as if expecting it to glow. She sat there for a long time, breathing softly, heart aching with an emotion she couldn't name. It wasn't fear, it wasn't sadness. It was recognition. The dream had felt too real, the light, the river, the voice. It wasn't a random vision. It was a place that knew her. She stood, walking toward the window. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights glowed below, reflecting against the damp streets like 1,000 tiny stars. In the distance, thunder rolled, not loud but gentle, almost like a heartbeat. "Dreams remember what hearts cannot," she whispered, testing the words aloud. Something inside her stirred, something she thought she'd buried, a memory trying to surface. A name, a face, a promise she never kept. That night she wrote in her journal something she hadn't done in years. "I dreamed of a world that remembered me. I don't know what it means, but it felt alive. Someone called my name, not as a stranger would, but as someone who had once loved me." She closed the notebook and pressed it to her chest. The candle's flame flickered, casting long shadows across her walls, shadows that almost looked like the outline of someone standing beside her. And for the first time in a very long time, Evelyn didn't feel alone. She felt watched over. When she finally drifted back to sleep, the dream was waiting, quietly, patiently, like it had never left her at all. The next night arrived quietly, wrapped in silver moonlight. Evelyn had spent the day in quiet thought, her mind caught between the waking world and the one she saw in sleep. The world that remembered her. Her coworkers noticed her distracted eyes, her half-smile that came and went like a ghost. But she couldn't tell them what she'd seen. How could she explain a dream that felt more like a memory than a dream? When the clock struck midnight, she sat beside the window again. The candle's flame danced softly, and somewhere beyond the walls, the city hummed, distant cars, late trains, a heartbeat made of noise. But inside there was stillness. She closed her eyes and whispered to the dark, "If it's real, take me back." And the world obeyed. She was standing on the riverbank again. The same glowing water, the same endless sky of violet and silver. But this time she wasn't afraid. The river shimmered, moving slowly like time made visible. It whispered not in words but in feelings, regret, love, memory. Every ripple carried a voice she could almost recognize. When she knelt to touch it, the water didn't feel wet, it felt warm, humming softly against her fingers, pulsing with something alive. "Do you remember me?" she whispered. The river stirred and a faint shape began to appear on its surface. A reflection, but not hers, a man's face. Gentle eyes, the kind that made you believe in quiet things. Dark hair brushed by wind and a smile that looked half sad, half home. Her breath caught. "Michael!" The name slipped out before she could stop it, like it had been waiting on her tongue all along. The image in the water flickered, fading, then forming again. "Evelyn!" The voice came not through her ears but through her chest, through her heartbeat. She pressed her palm against the surface, trembling. "Is it really you?" The water rippled softly in answer. Then the voice spoke again, quieter, aching. "You came back." Tears filled her eyes. She had forgotten how his voice sounded, calm, careful, like he was always afraid of breaking something fragile. "Where are you?" she asked. But the river gave no answer this time. Only the light shifted, and for a brief second she saw a bridge, a field of pale flowers, and a door made of light. Then it was gone. She sat there, hugging her knees, breathing slowly. The dream realm didn't feel like imagination anymore. It felt intentional, like it was trying to show her something piece by piece, memory by memory. Maybe she hadn't just stumbled here by accident. Maybe she had been called. A voice came behind her, light as the wind. "You shouldn't stay too long at the river." Evelyn turned. A young woman stood there, barefoot, her hair like moonlight cascading down her back. Her eyes glowed faintly, but they were kind. "Who are you?" Evelyn asked. The girl smiled. "A guide, a memory, depends on the night." She stepped closer, her feet leaving no mark on the glowing ground. This place remembers you because you once left pieces of your heart here. Evelyn frowned softly. I don't understand. The girl knelt beside her, dipping her fingers into the river. The water swirled around them, glowing brighter. Every dreamer who loves deeply leaves a trace behind. You built this river once with your tears and your hope. That's why it still knows your name. Evelyn's voice trembled. And the man in the water, the girl's smile faded. He's part of what you left behind too. She reached out, touching Evelyn's wrist gently. If you follow the river, it will lead you to him. But be careful, dreams don't always remember kindly. They walked together along the river's curve, under skies that shimmered with silver dust. Sometimes Evelyn saw shadows of old memories flickering beside her, laughter under rain, hands held too tightly, a farewell on a train platform. She could feel each one tugging at her heart, soft and painful, but she didn't look away. After a while, they reached a hill where the grass glowed faint blue. From its peak, she could see everything: the glowing fields, the quiet trees, and in the distance, that faint golden door she'd seen in the river. It pulsed gently like it was breathing. There, the girl said, that's where memory ends and truth begins. Evelyn turned to ask more, but the girl was gone, her form fading into the wind like mist dissolving at dawn. The world dimmed for a heartbeat, the stars leaned closer, and the river below whispered once more, "Dreams don't forget what the heart remembers." Evelyn woke with her hand over her chest. Her skin was cold, but her pulse was wild. The clock read 3:07 a.m. She stared at the ceiling, breath trembling. Her pillow was damp from tears, but she wasn't crying anymore. She was remembering. The name Michael echoed in her chest, heavy, real. He wasn't just part of a dream. He had been her dream once, her life, her forever. And she had lost him. But if dreams could remember, maybe love never really left. The next evening, Evelyn did something she hadn't done in years. She found the old wooden box tucked away in her closet, beneath forgotten clothes and folded silence. Inside were photographs, her and Michael by the sea, laughing, young, endless. A letter with his handwriting, soft and curved, and a silver key. She held the key tightly. The metal was cold, but her hand warmed around it as if it knew it still belonged. On the back of one photo, she found a note in her own handwriting: "If dreams remember, I will find you there." Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. "I wrote this," she whispered. Before she couldn't finish the sentence. The words broke into a quiet sob. Outside, thunder murmured again. It sounded almost like the voice in her dream, deep, gentle, waiting. She turned off the lights and lay down, the silver key clutched in her palm. "I'm coming back," she whispered to the dark. And the moment her eyes closed, the dream opened, waiting as it always had. Night returned gently, like a soft breath against the window. Evelyn had spent the entire day haunted by whispers she couldn't silence, echoes of the dream, the river, the girl of moonlight, and above all, Michael's name. It played through her like a song she once loved but could no longer sing. She sat on her bed, the silver key resting in her palm. The moment she touched it, warmth bloomed across her skin, faint but alive, pulsing with a rhythm that didn't feel her own. It was like the key itself remembered something, or someone. As the candle burned low, Evelyn closed her eyes and whispered to the dark, "Show me the truth." And once again, the world shifted. She awoke on the hill of glowing grass, where the river curved like silver glass beneath her. But tonight the dream world felt different, quieter, heavier. The stars seemed to breathe slower, the air tasted of rain and memory. In the distance, the door of light shimmered, golden, pulsing, waiting. It was neither near nor far, just there, suspended in air above a pool of still water. Evelyn took a deep breath and began to walk. The ground beneath her feet changed as she moved, grass turning into stone, stone into sand, sand into reflections of clouds. Every step hummed softly, as though the dream itself recognized her return. When she reached the edge of the pool, she saw her reflection, but it wasn't only her. Behind her stood Michael. She turned sharply, heart pounding. He looked just as he had the last day she saw him, same gentle eyes, same quiet smile that hid 1,000 unspoken things. Only now he seemed softer, almost translucent, as if the dream was struggling to hold him together. Michael, her voice cracked, he smiled faintly. You still remember. Her eyes filled with tears. How could I forget? He stepped closer, and though she longed to touch him, she didn't dare. You shouldn't be here, he whispered. Neither should you, she replied. I didn't choose to come, he said, but you did. The dreams brought you because you weren't ready to let go. Evelyn looked at the door of light beyond him, its golden glow reflecting in her eyes. Is that where you are? She asked softly. Beyond that door, Michael nodded slowly. It's where memories rest, where dreams that have finished find peace. Her hand trembled. And if I walk through it, he looked down, his expression breaking with sorrow and love, then you won't come back. The words hung between them like falling stars, fragile, glowing, doomed to fade. Evelyn took a step closer. Why did I see you again? Why now after all these years? Michael's gaze softened. Because you finally dreamed with your heart open. Grief had sealed the door, but love remembered the way. Her tears fell freely now. I miss you every day. He smiled, that same smile she had memorized long ago. I know. Every tear, every whisper in the dark, the dream world carried them here. He lifted his hand, and though it trembled like smoke, she felt the warmth of his palm brush against hers. It wasn't solid, but it was enough. You built this world, he said gently. Every piece of it, the river, the stars, the bridges, all born from what you couldn't say when I was gone. Her lips trembled. And you? I stayed, he whispered, because I promised I'd never leave you alone in the dark. For a long while, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the river and the pulse of the glowing door ahead. Finally, Evelyn looked at the light and whispered, If I open it, will I see what really happened? Michael hesitated. Yes, but truth can hurt. Dreams protect you from what you can't bear until you're ready. I am ready, she said, voice trembling but sure. I've been ready for years. He looked at her, proud and sad all at once. Then hold the key. Evelyn opened her palm. The silver key shimmered with faint light, pulsing in time with the door's golden glow. She stepped toward it slowly, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. When she reached the threshold, the air changed, warm and weightless. The key lifted from her hand on its own, turning in the air, and slid perfectly into a small lock that appeared in the light. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, click, the door opened. A soft wind swept through, carrying the scent of rain and roses. Inside, she saw fragments suspended in the air like fragile glass. Moments she had long forgotten. Michael laughing beneath summer rain. The day they painted their first apartment. A fight that ended in silence. A hospital room. A heart monitor's flat tone. Evelyn gasped, clutching her chest. The memories crashed through her like waves. She saw herself sitting beside his hospital bed, whispering, "Don't leave me," as his hand grew colder. She saw the moment she fell asleep holding his arm, and the dream began for the first time. That was when this world was born. The river, the bridge, the endless sky, all of it built from the love she refused to release. Michael's voice came softly behind her. You dreamed me alive, Evelyn, so you wouldn't have to say goodbye. She turned, tears streaming. Then why bring me back here? Why show me this? Because you can't stay forever, he said gently. Dreams remember love, but love also remembers life. He reached out, touching her face. "You have to wake up and live the days I couldn't." She shook her head. "No, please, just one more night." Just one, but the light around them began to fade, and the dream trembled like a candle flickering in wind. Michael smiled through his own tears. "I'll always be here. Every time you close your eyes, this world will breathe your name." He leaned close, his voice breaking to a whisper that brushed her ear. "Good night, my love. Remember to wake." The light swallowed everything. The door, the river, the stars, all dissolving into gold and silence. And Evelyn opened her eyes to dawn. Morning sunlight painted her room in soft gold. The candle had melted completely, leaving only a circle of wax. In her hand she still held the silver key, but now it was warm, faintly glowing. She lay there quietly, breathing, tears falling without sorrow this time. Outside, the rain had stopped. A bird sang. And for the first time in years, Evelyn smiled, truly smiled. "Good night, Michael," she whispered softly, even as the sun rose. Morning light spilled softly across Evelyn's room. For a long while she lay still, listening to the world breathe. The hum of distant cars, the flutter of a bird's wings outside the window, the whisper of wind through the curtains. It all sounded new, as though the world had been washed clean overnight. The silver key lay beside her pillow. She lifted it, turning it in her palm. It no longer glowed, yet it carried a strange warmth, like it remembered light. She smiled faintly. "Good night, Michael," she whispered again, though the sun was already climbing. Her heart ached, but not with grief. It ached with something gentler, something alive. Days passed, slow and tender. Evelyn began to move differently, lighter somehow, as if every breath carried a quiet thank you. She returned to her work, but even the noise of the city didn't unsettle her anymore. When she spoke to people, her words carried softness. When she laughed, it didn't sound hollow. And every night she dreamed. But the dreams were changing. No longer haunted by rivers and fading bridges, they now bloomed with color, gardens, sunlight, voices like songs carried by wind. She began to remember joy. One evening, as twilight painted her walls in shades of rose and blue, Evelyn lit her candle again and sat beside the window. "I'm ready," she said softly, not to call for Michael this time, but to thank him. When she closed her eyes, the dream met her halfway. She stood in a garden that stretched endlessly beneath a golden sky. The air smelled of lavender and rain-soaked earth. Every flower glowed faintly, breathing with slow light as though they had heartbeats of their own. The river was gone, but its hum still lingered in the breeze. And in the center of the garden she saw a stone bench beneath a great tree of silver leaves. She walked toward it, the grass whispering beneath her feet. As she passed, the flowers turned slightly toward her like they knew her, like they remembered her. When she reached the bench, she noticed something carved into its surface. "Here, love becomes memory, and memory becomes peace." Evelyn smiled softly and sat down. A warm wind brushed her hair, carrying faint laughter, voices she'd loved, moments she'd lost. But they didn't hurt anymore. They sounded like music from a far room, beautiful because they had once been hers. After a while, she noticed small patches of bare earth beside the bench. She knelt down, tracing her fingers through the soil, rich, soft, alive. And then she heard a whisper. It wasn't a voice exactly. It was a feeling, gentle, familiar. "Plant what your heart still holds." She looked down at her hand. In her palm lay 3 small seeds glowing faintly with silver light. Evelyn didn't question how they appeared. She simply smiled and pressed them into the ground, one by one. The moment she covered them with soil, the garden shimmered. Colors deepened, the air warmed, and new life began to bloom. From the first seed grew a flower that smelled like the sea, salt and wind and laughter. From the second, a white blossom shaped like a key, delicate, shining faintly. And from the third, a vine of soft blue petals that wrapped gently around the bench, curling upward like it wanted to hold her. Evelyn touched one of the petals. "Are you watching?" she whispered. The leaves rustled in answer, and though she couldn't see him, she felt Michael's presence like sunlight on her skin, soft, constant, unseen. She stayed in the garden for what felt like hours, though time didn't move here. Sometimes she spoke aloud, sometimes she listened. Every whisper of wind felt like the world breathing with her. And then she realized this garden wasn't just a dream. It was hers. The place her love had become after goodbye. A space between grief and peace, built not from sorrow, but from remembering beautifully. When she stood to leave, the flowers bowed slightly and a single petal drifted into her hand. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. She held it close. "Thank you," she murmured. Then she walked back through the light. Evelyn awoke with the faint scent of lavender in her room. For a moment she thought she was still dreaming. The air felt too soft, too kind. But when she looked at her bedside table, she froze. There, resting beside the silver key, lay a single blue petal. Her heart fluttered. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't fading. It was real. She touched it gently, tears filling her eyes. "You're still here," she whispered. The petal glowed once, then went still, its light fading into the morning sun. From that day forward, Evelyn began to plant flowers on her small balcony, lavender, bluebells, jasmine. Each one a memory, each one a thank you. She started writing again too, not in her old journal of sorrow, but in a new one she called the Echo Garden. Every page was filled with fragments of dreams, letters to the past, and soft reminders that peace doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without pain. Some nights, when the world was quiet and the stars hung low, Evelyn would close her eyes and see the garden again, glowing softly, breathing alive. And sometimes, in the gentle rustle of its silver leaves, she would hear him. "Sleep well, Evelyn. The garden is always waiting." The city slept beneath a quiet rain. Drops tapped gently against Evelyn's window, steady as a lullaby. She sat with her journal open, writing in soft loops of ink, words flowing like rivers she no longer feared to cross. Love doesn't end. It only changes rooms. She smiled at her own line, then set the pen down. The silver key rested beside the blue petal, her two quiet companions. Each night they reminded her she was never really alone. As she watched the candle burn low, a familiar peace began to wash over her. The kind that whispers it's time. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was standing in the Echo Garden again. But something was different. The golden sky was darker now, a soft twilight filled with drifting light like tiny stars caught in slow motion. The flowers glowed brighter, and in the distance, the silver-leaf tree shimmered like a beacon. And beneath it, someone was waiting. Evelyn walked slowly, barefoot, the grass warm beneath her feet. The figure turned, and she recognized her at once. The girl of moonlight, the same gentle eyes, the same voice that once said, "Dreams remember what hearts cannot." "You came back," the girl said with a small smile. "I couldn't stay away," Evelyn replied. "This place feels like home," the girl nodded. "Because it is. You made it with your love, and now it's time to understand why." They walked together toward the tree. Its roots were vast, glowing veins that pulsed softly through the ground, connecting every flower, every petal, every memory in the garden. "Every dreamer leaves traces behind," the girl said, her voice carrying like a song. "When love is strong enough, those traces grow, they bloom into worlds like this one. The realm keeps them safe until the dreamer is ready to remember." Evelyn brushed her fingers along the silver bark. "So there are others like me." "Many," the girl said, kneeling to touch the ground. Some come here to heal, some to say goodbye, and a few like you stay to help others find their way. Evelyn looked up, puzzled. Help them, the girl smiled, soft and knowing. Every time someone dreams of peace, they walk through pieces of your garden. Your love has become a light for those still searching. The words sank deep into Evelyn's heart. She had thought her dreams were personal, private spaces of grief and memory. But now she saw them differently, as doorways she had unknowingly built for others who were lost in their own dark nights. I never meant to build anything, she whispered. Love never means to, said the girl. It simply does. They stood beneath the great tree, its branches stretched into the sky like hands reaching for the stars. At its base, Evelyn noticed a pool of still water, not glowing this time but clear as glass. When she looked into it, she saw flickers of other faces, strangers, some crying, some sleeping, some smiling softly. Who are they? Evelyn asked. The girl's voice was quiet. Dreamers, people who have lost someone or themselves. They are finding their way here, guided by your light. Evelyn's breath caught. My light? Yes, said the girl. You became what we call a keeper of dreams. Someone whose love has become gentle enough to guide others back to peace. Evelyn shook her head, overwhelmed. But I'm just me. I'm no guardian, no healer. The girl touched her hand, warm and real. You are exactly what the dream needed. Someone who learned that letting go isn't losing, it's giving love a place to rest. For a long while, Evelyn stood there in silence, listening. The garden hummed softly, thousands of faint heartbeats, all connected. It felt like standing in the center of every goodbye and every hope at once. Finally, she asked, what happens now? The girl's smile deepened. Now you choose. Choose to stay and continue guiding others who dream of love and loss, or to wake and live the rest of your days knowing peace, carrying this world quietly in your heart. Evelyn looked at the silver tree again. It shimmered like moonlight captured in glass. Somewhere within its glow she thought she heard Michael's laughter, faint but there. It didn't ache anymore. It warmed her. She turned to the girl. Do I have to decide tonight? The girl laughed softly. No, dreams are patient, they'll wait. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Evelyn's face. Whatever you choose, the garden will always bloom for you. And with that, the girl began to fade, becoming light, becoming air. Evelyn whispered, will I see you again? You already do, came the echoing reply. Every time you dream of kindness. The dream began to dim slowly this time, not fading but softening, like a song reaching its final note. The garden glowed one last time and the silver leaves drifted down around her, hundreds of them, falling like stars. One landed in her hand. She held it close and whispered, thank you. Then she woke. Dawn painted her room in shades of pink and gold. The rain had stopped. The candle was cold. Evelyn sat up slowly, still feeling the warmth of the dream. On her bedside table, beside the silver key and the blue petal, now lay something new, a tiny silver leaf. She smiled through tears. I understand now, she said softly. Dreams remember love, so we can learn to live again. She opened her window and let the morning air rush in. It smelled like lavender and rain, her garden, somehow still with her. And as the sunlight touched her face, Evelyn whispered a quiet promise. If someone dreams of peace tonight, I'll be there in the light. Morning sunlight poured through Evelyn's curtains like a soft, golden tide. The world outside was waking, distant laughter, birdsong, the whisper of wind through the maple trees. Yet for Evelyn, time felt slower, as if the rhythm of dreams still pulsed quietly beneath her skin. She sat on the edge of her bed, fingertips brushing the silver leaf. It was real, cold, and smooth like moonlight captured in metal. Every time she turned it in her hand, faint light shimmered through the veins. Dreams remember what hearts cannot, she murmured, and hearts remember what dreams dare to show. The thought filled her chest with warmth. She felt both fragile and infinite, like the morning dew on a field that stretches forever. That day, Evelyn didn't rush anywhere. She made tea, slow and unhurried, and let it steam in the quiet kitchen. Her small apartment had never felt so alive, the lights softer, the corners warmer. Even the shadows seemed kind. When she sat by her desk, the blank notebook stared back at her, the same one she had bought months ago but never used. Now she knew what it was waiting for. She opened to the first page and wrote in delicate strokes, "When dreams remember you," a story by Evelyn Hart. Her pen trembled slightly, but her heart was steady. She began to write not as a task, but as a remembering. Each word came like breath, soft and honest. She wrote about Michael, his laughter, the unfinished moments, the quiet ways he loved her without needing to say it. She wrote about the silver tree and the girl of moonlight, about the way grief transforms into light when we stop trying to fight it. Hours passed like gentle tides, and still she wrote. Her tears fell freely, not from pain now, but from release. Every word was a seed, and she knew the garden in her dream was blooming again, somewhere beyond the veil. By evening, Evelyn had filled 20 pages. She stopped only when the sunset painted her walls in soft rose and violet hues. As she set her pen down, she whispered to the empty room, "It's not just my story anymore, is it?" The air shimmered faintly. The silver leaf on her desk gave a small, glowing pulse, a heartbeat of light. She smiled. "No," she said softly, "it never was." That night she dreamt again, but differently. No garden, no key, no silver sky. Just a vast sea of stars and thousands of doors opening into light. Behind each one she glimpsed faces, strangers, dreamers, each holding something luminous in their hands. A letter, a photo, a memory. And among them walked the girl of moonlight, her smile serene. "They've begun to find you," she said. "Your words are echoes. Every time someone falls asleep with your story in their heart, a new garden blooms." Evelyn felt tears rise again, tears of awe. She whispered, "Is this what it means to heal?" The girl nodded. "Healing is never ending. It's passed on like candlelight." Evelyn looked out at the horizon of dreams, the countless lights flickering in rhythm. She thought of everyone who had ever lost someone, those who whispered goodbyes into pillows, those who carried grief in silence. "Then let my story reach them," she said softly. "Let it remind them they're never alone." She woke with a calm that felt like music. The notebook lay beside her pillow, and when she opened it, she saw a sentence written in a handwriting that wasn't hers. "Love doesn't end when you wake. It begins again in the hearts you touch." Evelyn smiled through quiet tears. She didn't question how it appeared. Some things were meant to remain mysteries, gentle ones that ask us only to believe. Days turned into weeks. Her story grew, chapter by chapter, page by page, until it became something whole. When she finally shared it with the world, she didn't expect much. A few readers, maybe. But people found it, and when they did, something miraculous happened. Messages began to arrive from places she'd never been. Strangers wrote things like, "Your story helped me sleep again. I dreamed of my mother after so many years." It felt like someone finally understood. Every message was like a petal falling from the dream garden, landing softly in her waking world. She read them all with tears and quiet gratitude. Evelyn understood now. The dream hadn't ended. It had simply changed form, spreading through words, through hearts, through nights. One evening, as rain returned outside her window, she lit a candle and whispered her promise aloud, to the girl, to Michael, to every dreamer who might one day listen. "Whenever someone closes their eyes in search of peace, I'll be there in the hush, in the light, reminding them that even in silence, love remembers. That night, as she drifted to sleep, she found herself walking again through the silver garden. But this time, she wasn't alone. Hundreds of soft figures wandered among the flowers, dreamers from across the world. They smiled as she passed, each carrying a small candle that glowed with the color of their hearts. And in the center of it all, the great tree shimmered brighter than ever, branches stretching into infinity, every leaf a story, every light a dream. Evelyn placed her hand upon its trunk. It pulsed once, warm and alive. A voice, not the girl's this time, but something greater, whispered through the wind. "You kept your promise, and now you are the dream." The words melted into her like sunrise. She closed her eyes, smiling, as the garden faded into 1,000 lights that drifted upward. Returning to the sky from which all dreams begin, the candle burned low again, its small flame dancing in the hush of evening. Outside, rain hummed on the windows like soft applause. Evelyn turned another page of her notebook. The story was finished, yet her hands still itched for ink. Since her book had reached the world, she had begun to sense little changes around her, dreamlike glimmers in ordinary things. The hum of the refrigerator sometimes sounded like distant waves. When she closed her eyes, she could almost hear the whisper of silver leaves. That night she whispered, "If there's more, I'm listening." Then she lay down, the silver leaf on her chest. She woke in a place between heartbeat and breath. No dawn, no dusk, only a sky that shimmered like water. The Echo Garden had grown vast, its borders dissolved into a horizon of light. A pathway of glass petals unfolded before her, and along it stood people, some she knew, most she didn't, each holding a candle the color of their dream. A man stepped forward first, gray-haired and gentle-eyed. "I read your story," he said. "It helped me forgive myself." Then a woman with a soft scarf. "I found my sister in a dream after 10 years." Their candles glowed brighter as they spoke, and their light threaded together, weaving a silver river through the garden. Evelyn felt her heart expand until it almost hurt. "This is what became of your words," said a voice behind her. She turned and saw the girl of moonlight again, smiling like the first night they met. "You called us all here," the girl said. "Each dreamer who was touched by your story added a seed. Now their gardens have grown into one." Evelyn gazed across the endless bloom. Every flower pulsed softly, some with laughter, some with tears, a tapestry of human hearts remembering love. "It's beautiful," Evelyn breathed. The girl nodded. "It is beyond time now. Here memories no longer fade, they transform. This is the garden that keeps growing, even when the dreamers wake." They walked together beneath arches of glowing branches. In the distance rose something new, a great mirror standing among the trees. Its surface rippled like water. "What is it?" Evelyn asked. "The mirror of echoes," said the girl. "It shows what the dream gives back to the world." Evelyn stepped close. At first she saw only light, then scenes appeared, a mother reading when dreams remember you to her child. A man sitting by a hospital bed, whispering its words to a loved one, a teenager writing her own story of healing. The images shimmered, then folded into one another like waves. Tears traced Evelyn's cheeks. "I never meant to start all this." The girl's answer was tender. "Love never starts with intention, it starts with need." A soft wind rose, carrying the scent of lavender and rain. The girl reached for Evelyn's hand. "It's time to give the garden back to them," she said. "Let it live in every heart that seeks rest. You've taught the dream how to remember. Now it will teach others how to live." Evelyn felt the silver leaf warm in her palm. Its light spread outward until the whole garden glowed, petals, candles, faces, all rising in a slow, luminous drift. The scene became weightless, timeless. She could feel herself dissolving into the same gentle brightness. "Will I still be me?" she asked. The girl smiled. "You'll be every peaceful breath before sleep, every tear that turns into a smile. You'll be the hush between one heartbeat and the next." The garden pulsed once more, and Evelyn let go. When the first light of morning touched the city, a breeze moved through Evelyn's open window. Her notebook lay on the desk, pages fluttering as though unseen hands turned them. The silver leaf rested on top, gleaming faintly, then fading to clear crystal. Inside it shimmered the outline of a garden, infinite and calm. Somewhere a reader finished her story and fell asleep smiling. In that moment, far beyond clocks or distance, Evelyn's voice whispered through the dreamscape. "You are safe. You are loved. And the dream remembers you." Night falls gently over the quiet city. Windows fade to silver squares of light. Far below, the streets grow still. The world exhales. Somewhere a small apartment window is open, curtains swaying like slow tides. On a desk, a candle burns low beside a notebook titled "When Dreams Remember You." Its pages flutter softly, moved by the breath of night. The last page is blank, waiting. But if you listen closely, you can almost hear a whisper moving through the room, a familiar voice, calm and full of warmth. "Close your eyes. Let the world fall away. You've carried so much today, and now it's time to rest." You don't see her, but Evelyn is there not as flesh and bone, but as light, as quiet understanding. She has become part of the hush that lingers between dreams. Every word she once wrote now glows softly in the air, and her presence feels like a gentle hand brushing the edge of your thoughts. "It's okay to be tired," she says. "It's okay to stop searching for meaning tonight. The stars will remember for you." Outside, clouds drift across the moon. Each one looks like a page turning in a sky-sized book. Somewhere in that sky, the garden blooms again, the silver tree, the river of candles, the laughter of dreamers walking hand in hand. You are among them now. Evelyn's voice continues, tender and slow. You may think dreams are only echoes, but they're also beginnings, quiet places where the heart can start over. Every time you fall asleep, you return to the place that loves you most. You return to yourself. A soft wind moves through the room, carrying the scent of rain and lavender. The flame flickers, then steadies as if keeping time with your heartbeat. "When you wake," she whispers, "don't forget that love never leaves. It only changes its form from touch to memory to light." Silence gathers like a blanket. Your breath slows, deep and even. The world outside fades until only the rhythm of your pulse remains, a reminder that you are still here, still part of something vast and kind. The silver leaf glows faintly on the desk, its light spilling into the dark like water finding its way home. And within that light, the garden of dreams shimmers, eternal, serene, alive. Evelyn's final words echo softly through the air, not as sound but as feeling, the kind that rests inside your chest long after the night ends. You are safe, you are loved, and no matter how far you wander, the dream will always remember you. The candle sighs out, the room grows still, and somewhere far beyond the veil of sleep, a gentle voice welcomes you home. Welcome to the place where dreams begin.
you.